South Carolina did a lot of things on Saturday to give itself a chance to go on the road and win in Baton Rouge over LSU. But at the same time, it also did a lot of things that ultimately hurt itself too much in the end, too much to overcome in what would ultimately be a 20-10 loss here at Tiger Stadium to the number 11 Tigers on Saturday in Death Valley. And like I said, I mean, Carolina did some pretty good things in this ball game. Rushed for almost 200 yards on the ground in this game. The best performance on the ground for South Carolina so far this season. That's a positive. You could take that away from this game. The defense also forced 3 turnovers and got a lot of nice stops in the red zone. That's another positive. But I think that's about where the positives end in this game. At the end of the day, you only scored 10 points in this game, and that in the SEC is never truly going to be enough to win a football game. And I think this is another game much like the Missouri game from a few weeks back. I would honestly say probably more so this game compared to that one out in Como. It feels like South Carolina let this game get away from them. Were they the better team at the end of the day? No. LSU won. But South Carolina was its own worst enemy in this game, right? And there were a few reasons for that. That's the reason why I think you could say South Carolina lost this game. LSU didn't necessarily beat South Carolina. South Carolina beat itself, I think is the best way to put it. And it starts with the self-inflicted mistakes. The offense was just far too inconsistent to win you this football game. Now, Matthew Fuller, as I said with the rushing in this game, Matthew Fuller had a nice game on the ground. 72-yard touchdown run at the end of the first quarter to give the Gamecocks their first and their only lead of the night in this game. And we'll get back to Fuller in a second. There's something to bring up with that, with his carries on the night. But that was about it for the offense in this game. Lenore Sellers took 5 sacks in this game. Some of them were on him. He also had 2 intentional groundings. The blocking up front, I know, has been a big issue for a lot of people, but there were a lot of problems with the blocking tonight. Let's just say that there was a lot of times where Sellers was just under duress and just had to throw the ball away or take a sack. And again, the blocking is going to continue to take a lot of heat, and it's just the way it's going right now. It's just been a real issue for the most part. The better part of this season has not been great, and that's a big problem for a lot of people. The other thing is the penalties. 2 weeks ago against Kentucky, this team was fantastic about limiting those mistakes that they could control. Right? They only had 1 pre-snap penalty against the Wildcats 2 weeks ago, and it led to a 35-13 win. Did a lot of other good things in that game too, but that was a totally different story tonight. Now, you could say it was the loudness of Death Valley. It lived up to the hype, like what the people say out there about how loud Tiger Stadium can get. LSU fans, they're very loud, but it's no excuse to have 13 penalties in this game, a lot of which were pre-snap penalties. You had 2, one was an illegal snap, one was an illegal formation. You had 5 false starts and 2 offsides penalties. It's tough to win a football game when you beat yourself like that. It truly is. So the mistakes really piled up in this game. And again, when you combine the penalties with the offensive inefficiencies in this game, and you give LSU just a little bit, LSU did their part in winning this game, but South Carolina helped tremendously with that by just not getting the job done. Now, back to a little bit of what I said earlier. Matthew Fuller obviously had the 72-yard touchdown run at the end of the first quarter. And you would imagine after that, he's getting a lot of touches. He's becoming South Carolina's RB1 now that he had a pretty productive, promising game against Kentucky 2 weeks ago. He has the big run there. He's got to get more carries, right? Well, he didn't get another carry until the beginning of the second half, much less his next touch with the ball was a 5-yard catch before he got another carry. He finished with 7 carries on the night for 83 yards. And a little bit of it has to do with Rasul Faison, who had 13 carries for 68 yards, total in this game. Pretty good performance for Faison. Obviously, a nice bounce back for him after scoring 2 touchdowns, but not doing much in the ground game, yardage-wise, against Kentucky. But many people were wondering, why did Matt Fuller not get many touches? He didn't get any in the second quarter after that touchdown run. And a lot of it had to do with, when I asked Shane Beamer about it postgame, he did say it had to do with trying to get the other guys in the rotation in there, like Faison and Oscar Attaway, get those guys in there, get their touches. But the thing that confused me about it most was that Beamer said that he told the coaches that we need to get him the freaking ball, quote. And at the end of the day, isn't that Beamer's decision? Right? Everything goes through him. So I thought it was a little confusing how he said that, yet he's the one that makes the decisions on that. So a little confusing there. Again, South Carolina just did too much to hurt itself in this game to ultimately have a chance to win. Again, this was a one-score game in the fourth quarter. LSU kicked a field goal late in this one, but it's just, that's the thing. It was a close game, and it's much like Missouri, where, like I said before, South Carolina had the lead going into the fourth quarter in that game, yet couldn't finish. And that's the story here again tonight, where mistakes just piled up. It feels like deja vu all over again in a lot of ways. So the Gamecocks are now 3-3 on the year, 1-3 in conference play. I think we can almost with 100% certainty say that the college football playoff is just it's not even going to happen at this point. I mean, you have 3 losses already. You'd have to be flawless the rest of the way. And with 4 straight games coming up against top 10 opponents, that's not going to be easy. And then you still have to play Clemson, who's playing a lot better right now, and then Coastal Carolina as well. I mean, this 5-game stretch that South Carolina had coming up starting tonight with LSU was going to be daunting, and it's not off to a good start. Now, the Gamecocks will return home next Saturday to take on Oklahoma, who obviously just lost to Texas today out in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl. But still, it's going to be a tricky game just because Oklahoma's off to a good start this year. Defense is good. Obviously not so much today, and the offense wasn't great today, but still, this stretch coming up for South Carolina is really daunting. And I think the discussion more is about, okay, is this team going to be able to get to a bowl game, which remains to be seen. So that game next Saturday will kick off at 12:45 p.m. on SEC Network, and we will have all coverage and live updates for you out in Columbia next week. So once again, South Carolina suffers a 20-10 loss to number 11 LSU here on Saturday in Baton Rouge. For GamecockCentral.com, I'm Jack Veltri.